Welcome to the Cabin Culture Podcast, where we spend a little more time diving deeper into all the fun parts of cabin culture. I like to think of this as both the material and imagined expressions of how cabin lovers, dwellers, builders, and designers wish to live a more simple and authentic life. Today we're talking with Steph, the force behind North Country Cabin Co., who is building a Wisconsin lake cabin empire for over a decade. What started as a corporate escape plan and a podcast-inspired lightbulb moment has evolved into 4 distinctive lake properties and a completely reimagined life centered around what truly fills her up. From drilling wells that cost double the estimate to managing hot tub maintenance across multiple properties, Steph shares the unglamorous realities that most people don't realize about running cabins. But she also reveals how fostering over 60 dogs taught her about transformation and joy. Lessons that translate beautifully to watching guests fall in love with the same lakes and landscapes that captured her heart years ago. We'll explore her journey from house hacking duplexes to building cabins from napkin sketches, the systems that allow her to manage 4 properties while raising 2 toddlers, and why she now prioritizes energy management over time management. Plus, we dive into hot topics like cameras on lake properties, the reality of cabin expenses, and why sometimes the best business strategy is simply creating spaces you genuinely love. Whether you're dreaming of your first lake cabin or scaling beyond your current properties, this conversation offers both practical wisdom and a reminder that there are countless ways to build a life around what brings you joy. Let's do it. Hi.
Hey, there you are.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to meet you.
To meet you too.
This is where I want to start. We're going to dive right in because
All right.
In reading your pre-interview form, I felt like we have so much in common and I got really excited for this conversation, but I kind of want to start outside the cabin world because I am like deep in the fostering dog world right now. Our current foster dog, who we thought we were just taking in for a short term, was pregnant and had her puppies 5 days ago.
Oh
So we are
my
raising
God.
puppies
Okay.
for the first time ever as fosters, and you have fostered over 60 dogs. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into fostering? We'll talk about cabins later, guys, I promise.
Okay. Of course. And I was really hoping we would talk about dogs.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm just a crazy dog lady. I always have been. We
Same.
didn't really have dogs growing up until I was a little bit older. And I told my mom, I want to volunteer at the shelter. I want to do all this stuff. And she was like, well, I don't have time to take you, but your grandpa's going to take you. So I'm like 12 years old with my grandpa, who's like almost 7 feet tall, trying to walk these, pit mixes, whatever.
I love that.
Giving them baths, just getting all in there.
Yeah.
And that's how I really started it. My mom doesn't know. I don't know where it came from. I just wanted to help. And so once I was an adult and got my own house and all the things, I was like, I'm obviously gonna bring them in. And it started like a normal person with 1 dog.
Mhm.
And
Me
kept
too.
that dog naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of went from there. I got on the foster list, and then you get the emails and your heart just like sinks for these dogs and you see their pictures. And
Yes.
so yeah, we ended up taking some moms with puppies.
Mhm.
I've never done whelping, so I've never done the birthing and everything like that.
It's a thing.
Yeah, I imagine. I imagine. And then those tiny little babies. Yeah, so we've had up to probably like 6 dogs at a time.
Wow.
In our house, which is a lot.
Yeah.
My husband would be like, yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
So
My husband is that one too, though
okay.
he gets on board pretty quickly, and you kind of need one of those people because
Yeah.
it
Otherwise
really
it gets
can
out of
it
hand.
it can get out of control really fast, but it's hard. This is why I wanted to talk about it because 4th of July is the biggest intake day of the year. And I feel like folks not in the foster world just don't know how urgent the crisis is and like the math that's being done. And what do you think is the biggest thing that stops people from fostering?
I mean, it is a big unknown. Like you can only know so much about them on intake. And it's scary to bring a dog into your home. Like I have toddlers, so it's always a
Yeah.
little, I'm very anxious about that when they first come. I don't know how they're going to react. But I've started bringing my kids with to meet the dog, and
Yeah.
that helps a lot just to see the reaction. But I mean, potty training, I think, is the
Yeah.
thing. They don't want their house to get wrecked, and I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And I think people think they can't like do enough for the dogs. And I
Mm,
feel this way about adopting too. They're like, oh, I just can't give them the life that they deserve. And I get that. And I think some people shouldn't have dogs for sure.
yeah.
But I also think I see, we see the life that they're living now. And it's like, if you can love on that dog for a bit, feed it, go for a short walk. If you can do something that maybe doesn't sound like enough, they're living in a cage. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really a lot better to get them out of there
Yeah.
and to get them socialized with people, understand being in a home. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question,
Yeah.
but
I'm just always curious
yeah,
from other people's because when you foster, you get tons of comments from people about fostering. So I
yeah,
think you learn a lot about
yeah,
that. So I'm always curious what other people are hearing.
yeah,
I I think the piece that isn't talked about enough, and then we can move on to cabins, but I
yeah,
think the piece that isn't talked about enough is like all of those fears are totally real. And then once
yeah,
a dog comes into your home, it doesn't mean it's not hard, but there's
yeah,
like this joy factor that comes with it,
yeah,
both the actual dog, but also like watching the transformation and watching them
yeah,
like come out of their shell. That like
100%.
suddenly none of oh, they pee on your floor. Okay. I cleaned it up. Oh, I
I
bought
know.
a industrial carpet cleaner and it's fine.
Mhm.
None of
And
that matters.
you get better at, like, preventing it too, like, I just pull up the
Yeah.
rugs now.
That's right.
I
That's
don't
right.
need to have them down.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's hard, but it's so rewarding, and people are like, "Oh, I'd never be able to give them up." But when you go into it with that mentality of, like, "This is not my dog,
Yep.
I'm gonna foster them and get them used to me and a home and everything, and I'm gonna find them their home." I just find that, like, yeah, I'm attached, but I get texts every day from these new owners of
Yes.
pictures of their I mean, it's giving me so much more joy to watch them go to their home, know that I just saved their life
Yes.
and really changed their whole world. So yeah, I think people think it's gonna be so hard, but it's also so great.
I
So
know. Sean said to me the other day, um, this was actually a couple months ago. I was like crying in the kitchen as we said goodbye to one of our foster dogs. Except what's
yep,
interesting is
been
my
there.
tears are never sadness for me. It's always the look that the dog gives me as they're walking
Yeah,
away because they don't know yet that like this is
yeah,
going to be your best life. They just know
yeah,
they're leaving you. And I
yeah.
feel guilty, like, oh my God, don't think that I'm abandoning you. So I was crying in the kitchen and he said, which do you like more, homing dogs or dogging homes? And I was like, "Oh my god, that's so perfectly put." And I don't know if it's like
Yeah.
watching that dog go to their forever home or watching those people change because the dog has come into their house and just changed
Oh,
everything
yeah.
about their life when they message you and you hear from them like every milestone that they hit. It's just like
Mhm.
that part is so rewarding and doesn't
That's
stop.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't think about that part of it, but that's so true too.
I know, and the way he said it, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is." I think about it all the time now of like, which do
Yep.
I like more? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, how many dogs do you have right now?
Just 2.
Okay. Just
So we
2.
have our dog Gump, and then I have a foster dog who's very scared, so she's in a kennel right now.
Mm, I love that name, Gump.
Right. Like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, yeah.
He came with it, and I was like, "That's staying. That's
That
the
is a
greatest
good
name
name.
ever."
Yes. Some of our foster dogs, I'm like, "Please change the names."
Yeah,
We've
it's like
named them.
Snickers or yeah.
And then some like Stewie or Boogie, I'm like, "You
Mhm.
gotta keep the name. That's so good."
Amazing.
I know.
Mhm.
Sean has already started with these we've never done puppies from birth, and he's already been like, "Oh, the tan one I'm gonna keep." And I'm just like, our house went from 2 dogs to 10, like, overnight. We
That's
cannot.
amazing. I'm
We have
jealous.
officially crossed over to crazy dog people.
Yep. Yep, it happens.
Okay.
It's a slippery slope.
It
Okay.
really is. Okay. I wanna talk about the cabins because your experience with them is so diverse and
Yeah,
pretty extensive compared to a lot of the folks that we talk to, because you've been
yeah.
doing this for 10 years. You bought your
Mhm.
first cabin a year before I bought my first cabin, and
Oh,
you now
okay.
have 4 different lake cabins in Wisconsin. So take
We
me
do.
back to, like, 2014 or even
Okay.
2015, right before you
Sure,
bought the cabin. But, like, what were you doing in life then? And neither you or your
sure.
husband grew up in cabins. So, like, what was that launching point for you that kind of entered you into this world?
Okay. That was a long time ago now. Um, yeah, so we were both working at corporate jobs, out of college. He was working at Delta Airlines, which was actually great because we got to fly places.
Oh, yeah, that sounds
And I
amazing.
was working at another corporate place. And coming out of college and having done a lot of fun traveling, camping, all the things, it was tough. Like we felt kind of
Mm.
trapped, I guess, a little bit. Like every
Mhm.
day was kind of the same. And we were just like not loving that life. And so he's always been into investing. He was like, wanted to do that out of college. He knew it. He bought his first house right away, but that was long-term investing.
Yep.
So we rent houses to college students, and we've done that since before this Airbnb stuff.
So
So
you started in long-term rentals.
we did. Yeah.
Okay.
That was always his plan.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
And I was,
safe, they're less risky,
yeah,
people always need a
yeah,
place to live. I have one
yeah.
long-term rental, and it's just
Do
doesn't
you?
make as much money, but
Yeah.
boy, is it easy.
It's a lot easier. So
Yeah.
we do college students, so less easy than
Yeah.
some. Just because, you're starting out in the world, you don't always know everything. We get calls because there's a spider or something, and
I can only
so
imagine.
yeah, like things not working, and you're like, oh, I think this might be user error.
Yeah, cleaning out the lint in the
But
dryer, that would scare the
yes,
shit out of me.
absolutely. People just don't quite know how to do all the house things yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that being said, yeah, way less work than short-term rentals.
yeah.
Um, I forgot what your question
Yeah, so
was.
then how did you go? You
Okay.
were talking about how you
Yes.
started, your husband was always into investing.
Yeah, and I just thought like, okay, that's great. That sounds cool for like a retirement plan. And um, but I was like, it's not very like sexy or fun or
Mhm.
like what do I want? And I listened to some real estate investing podcasts just trying to like get into it, be like on board. Um, excuse me. And I listened to this one about short-term rentals, and it was like a guy in Florida doing something really different, but his biggest tip was like, where do you want to go? And like, where do you love that you understand, that you've been, that you think other people would want to go?
Yeah,
And I'd grown up going to a family friend's cabin, a couple of them actually. And I was like, this is such an like people don't, unless you know someone, you don't go to these cabins. And
yes,
truly, when you're there and it's not a holiday, a lot of them are sitting empty.
yes,
Like you look around and it's just like dead
yes,
zone, and it's like people could be utilizing these
right.
cabins.
It just doesn't make
So
sense logistically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're sitting there, and a lot of them don't even get used, and the dock doesn't even get put in and stuff. And I just thought, like, that's it. Like,
Yeah,
so I brought the idea to my husband, and I was all excited. I just needed something to be excited
yeah,
about,
yeah.
and he was like, "No, we're not doing that."
Because it was so different from long-term rentals? What was his
Yeah,
reason?
I mean, no one was really doing it,
Right,
like
in
we just
2015, it was
thought
early.
it was early. Well, this was probably 2 years before that I
Yeah,
came to him with this
okay.
idea.
Oh, so it was
So,
very early.
it
Airbnb
was
was,
very
like, just starting.
it was, like, cutting edge, like, this podcast, I don't know how I found it, but it totally just, like, opened my mind to it. So then we rented a cabin. I said, "Let's go to this cabin that's a rental. Let's check it out," and he loved it. It was
Mm,
great, and I said, "You love cabins now, I've convinced you. And how can we pay for one to have for ourselves?"
yep,
So that's kind of how it started. And we bought this really small, inexpensive ish cabin to start. And we figured, worst case, like we can afford it, but like it's just a little strapped. And
yep,
and best case, like this could be a business and we could use it.
yep.
So
And how did it go? How long did it take to get to best case? Because 'Cause I'm guessing that you have
yeah.
4 at some point you got there.
Yeah. Well, it was such a wonderful place. I knew as soon as we drove in that it was the one. It was just like something magical, something special. But it didn't have a well, it didn't have electricity, it didn't have
It was
septic.
really off grid.
And I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I don't care. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
So that whole process took a while to
yeah,
get the well, to get just all of that up and
yeah,
running. And we've done a little renovating at this point, but we haven't done anything like that. So we were there every weekend for months and months till we got it done, and we started renting, and it was great right away, honestly. Like all
yeah,
of a sudden we're just like, this is we don't even have time to go unless we book it way in advance.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
good problem to have.
Yeah, there was only like one other rental in the whole region at that time. So
Yeah. That's interesting to hear. I've been curious about because I don't know a ton about the Midwest, but in Maine, the lake that I grew up on, it was like there weren't any rentals. So
yeah.
every camp was like family owned camps. And even now our lake is kind of out there. Even now it's mostly family owned. But there's probably 10 to 15, maybe 20, which is a lot more than there was growing up.
Yeah.
And the lake was really quiet, but I did think to myself, someone owns this and no one's here. Who
Yeah,
else could benefit from being in this beautiful place? Even
totally.
though renting can sometimes be scary, kind of like
Yeah.
fostering. I do think
Mhm.
there's a similarity here that what often stops people or what hangs them up the most at the beginning is oh, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And most
Yep.
of the time, it's just fine.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
when those do
A lot of
happen,
fear.
yeah, you survive. So you
Mhm.
went from that first one with a lot of work that went into it. Was this your
Mhm.
first time digging into the, like, renovation DIY couple work that you now have done a lot of?
Um, no, it was just a little more extensive than what we had done. So,
Yeah.
like I said, my husband bought his first rental right out of college. So we had that. I think
Were you
probably
together then?
we were, yep,
Okay, so
at
you were
the
part
end
of
of
that.
college. So
Got it.
I got my hands dirty and he was like all impressed and I just like to build and make things and whatever. So I was like in their basement like painting the walls and everything too.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of that together. I want to say we had 2 or 3 long-term rentals when we bought the short term. I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
how that all transpired. But yeah, so we'd done work on every place that we had bought. Most of them we lived in, so we did like the house hacking thing.
Mhm. Was it
So we
like
would live there.
duplexes or you would live in the single one and just do it at the same time?
Yes, both of those things.
Okay, both.
We would like move in to a house, fix it up, finish the basement, add bedrooms, whatever, make the kitchen pretty, and then rent it out. Or we lived in a duplex. We lived in half of it, rented out the other
Yeah.
half, fixed up the part we were in. It was very messy. I don't want to go back to that life, but it was great. I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, I'm selfishly gonna take advantage of this moment because we're selling our first cabin
mhm,
and we're also selling our long-term rental. So it makes sense to 1031 and put it
yeah,
into something else. But I've been like really struggling with the thought. I looked at a quadplex this weekend. I've looked at duplexes. We're looking at a
sure,
single house across the street from ours. Like, I
yeah.
just can't figure out what's next. What would your recommendation be at this moment in time? You've done all of them. You obviously know the economy now, the risk level, all
Yeah.
of that. What would you do if it were you?
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, we're doing nothing right now. Yeah, like the interest rates and everything have changed so much that we're just holding tight.
Yeah.
But I can say that like multi units are really great in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't know your market well enough to like give you the
Yeah.
best advice, but I'd be happy to talk about it more.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'm just well, and I'm thinking, I mean, obviously this is selfishly for me, but also for
yeah,
someone who is listening to this podcast and doesn't own a cabin yet and is
yeah,
trying to think about where do they start. You have had experience with so
hmm
much, like,
hmm
building, renovating, multi-unit, single unit, short-term rental, long-term rental.
yeah,
It can feel overwhelming when you hear all this different advice to decide
yeah.
which one is the right one for you. Like, what, I guess, and maybe there is no answer and you can tell me, Janice, this is an unanswerable question. But for someone just starting out,
Yeah,
would you have advice for them? Or maybe not even a right or wrong answer, but just things to think about.
things to think about. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, because I mean, unless I know your market, unless I know
Yeah.
your situation, I think that's the biggest thing is like, how much time do you have, to dedicate to this? Whether it's doing a renovation of multiple units. I mean, if you're talking about a quadplex, that's 4 kitchens and at least 4
Yeah.
bathrooms, and
Yeah.
if you're renovating. If the one good thing about multi-unit is you could have tenants in part of it that really helps you carry the mortgage and all the carrying costs while you're renovating each spot. So that is a
Yeah.
huge benefit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just sinking all that money until you get renting, which can be really tough. Building yeah, how much time do you have? It takes so stinking long. Um, and everything is longer than you think it's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking,
Yeah.
um, but can turn out so awesome. So
Yeah.
I think it's just really budgeting, really having a plan, whether you're doing a construction loan, figuring out how you're gonna pay for it as you go, and figuring out realistically how long it's gonna take.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're not gonna get up and running in 6 months
Yeah.
unless you're truly amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's also, I would say about building, it's also there's a joy to it
Yeah, for sure.
that I felt more I guess I felt it a little bit in my first renovation of, like, my own house, but the
Mhm.
visioning part of it, that's
Yeah.
really joyful. It is a lot of work, don't get me wrong, and
Mhm.
someone in the middle of it right now might be like, "There is no joy here," and I also know those moments,
Yes.
but there are moments of, like, intense optimism of, like,
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless. What does my creativity
Mhm.
want out of this? Okay, let's do it. Obviously, with financial limitations, whatever, but
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
don't get from, like, a turnkey or,
No.
something
True.
like that, which is way
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're so right on that. Like, being able to envision something and then seeing it come to fruition and be exactly what was in your mind, like, there's
Yes.
something so cool about that.
Yes.
Like, I'm, like, nerdy proud of what we built, like,
Yeah.
showing it off because
Yeah.
we really did sketch it on a napkin and
Yeah.
come up with it, and then now it's real, and it's just really awesome.
What was
So,
your first build, and what did it take for you to go from renovating to, "Okay, I'm ready to do this from scratch"?
I don't know that we were ready. Um, but what happened actually was the cabin that we owned, the first one that we bought, a lot down the road from it went for sale. And this was like at the time our private road, sort of, because there was no other cabins on it.
Mhm.
Granted, there were lots that were owned by people, but we were always like, "Oh, it'd be so cool to like own this whole road or
Yeah.
never have anyone else." So this lot goes for sale at the end of it, and we're like, "Oh no!" Like our dream. You're like, it's not really a great time to buy it, but we have to buy it
Right.
because we had enough income from the first
Right.
to refi that lot into the same loan and be able to pay for both.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of like, we're going to buy this and then we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And so what was the first step, I guess, was probably sketching it out on a napkin, but what were some of those early steps?
Early steps, well, it sort of had a build site that had been done, um, or so we thought, I guess. There was like a gravel area, and we're like, "Oh, you just put a cabin on there." We needed a lot more fill. There was sort of a driveway in. We had to take down a bunch of trees still
Uh-huh.
to widen it. We had to have electricity brought in from the road, so there's like
Mhm.
trenching
Mhm.
down to the build site. Then we had, I think then was well and septic, which we need a holding tank. So they're like digging a giant hole and putting
Yeah.
this massive tank underground.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
basically it's all the, like, unsexy stuff
Yes.
that nobody
Yes.
thinks about. You start with
Yeah.
this vision and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
cannot wait to pick out floors and paint colors and
Mhm.
furnish it." And they're like,
Mhm.
"Whoops, let's talk electricity and sewage
And
and
you're like,
holding
how
tanks."
much money are each of these things?
Yeah, and
So
it's the most expensive part of the build. They're literally
yeah.
like, "Oh, your well is gonna be $25,000." And you're like, "What?"
Yep, yep, and they just kept drilling that thing, and
Oh,
you're just, like, hearing it click, and it's money every time it clicks because they gotta wait until they hit the water, and we were, like, way the heck down there, so,
the well is the worst, just because you can't
well,
plan.
it's
They give you a quote, and then they're like, "But then if we have to go over this," and you're like, "Well, how will it what?" And they're like,
how
"You'll
can
know
I
afterwards." And I'm like,
exactly.
"When
What
I
does
get
that
the
mean?
bill?"
Right.
Like, what other industry could you be like, "I'm gonna do the work first,
And
and,
I'll just let you know.
yeah, and then I'll just charge you afterwards, and it doesn't matter what the number is, you're on the
Yep,
hook for it." Like, I can't think of another example where
yep,
that would happen, but
and
with
it was
wells,
wildly more than we had, like, Googled and stuff. It
yeah.
was, like, double, so we were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
there's
that's
no
cool."
way. Yeah, great. What a
Yeah,
good start to this build.
yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, once we finally got to the foundation and stuff, that was, like, exciting. So,
Yeah, because then you start to see it coming to life.
yeah, yeah.
Even if
Just
it's just the framing, you can, like, walk into a door, a hole,
yep.
and
Just
start
having a
looking around.
floor, just having the
Yeah.
foundation, I was like, "Wow, this is gonna be a cabin
Yes,
someday."
yes, I can see it come to life. You
Yeah.
now have 4, and I guess, like, one of the things I'd like to ask about as this is all sorry, guys, this is all, like, very selfish stuff, but part of the reason we sold our most recent cabin was because I was just really struggling with maintaining a high quality that made me feel good at 3 different cabins, and you're doing it at 4. So, was it at the beginning, it's kind of exciting and I think it's easier, but over time, it just becomes, like, exhausting to do it really
Yeah.
well, but outsourcing to a property manager is really I've done that once before and took it back with
Mhm.
in less than a year because I mean, it doesn't really make sense, right? You're like, I can't do 3. And they're like, here, let me add a 27th to my portfolio. And you're like, wait, you can't do this well either.
Right, you can't do all of those.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you grapple with that over the last 10 years? What did that transition look like?
Yeah, well, I really was on my own working and just kind of consulting, for quite a bit of that. So I could really like scale up and down, and the cabins were a big part of my workload. Um, and so it's not like I had a full-time job and I was doing the cabins. I was
Yeah.
doing the cabins as much time as they took. Admittedly, at times it was really hard to balance, and I would let some things go. And so just
Yeah.
figuring that out has been tough. Um, but since having two kids, um, who are 2 and 4, like you get messages at 8 p.m. You get
Yeah.
messages. Mornings are good. My kids are up, but I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock and I'm doing bedtime and getting those messages. I just felt like I wasn't serving the cabins in the best way. It's
Yeah.
really hard to be on all the time when you have kids. They're all encompassing.
Yeah.
So I had a friend. She's in no way a property manager, but I've known her since college, and she's awesome. She's a social worker in her career, and she works from home, has a lot of flexibility. And she was looking for some extra work, and I talked to her about it. I just thought, like, you are so good with people. You know our
Yeah.
cabins. You're from Wisconsin. You know this whole world. And if I can properly train you in this, like I trust, first of all, I trust that you're going to respond back in 30 seconds half the time.
Yeah.
She's always getting back to them right away, which people really appreciate.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's taking time for us to figure it out, but I know that I found the person to do
Yeah.
this for me that I trust, that she'll just call me if she doesn't know something. She'll text me if it's something really important. But even if I need to say get a new rug, like, she is super stylish and she can just buy it. So it's been so great for me to find her and have her at least be the first point of contact where she can reply right away. And if it's
Yeah.
something that I'm needed for, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found someone that's great. So
Okay. So first of all, I'm so happy for you because that is the magic answer.
yeah,
Second of
yeah,
all, that might not be what everyone else wants to hear because finding that person can be really hard. But I'm guessing there's
yeah,
probably some systems you've set up too that helped
yeah,
you first,
for
but then
sure.
also when you brought someone on, share that with them.
Mhm.
Wondering if maybe you can share a little bit about the things that you did maybe before you found her that helped you to streamline and make it more manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I use Logify, which is like our website and our booking system, and it
Mhm.
consolidates Airbnb, VRBO, and we do direct bookings through there. So at least everything's in one spot, you
Yeah.
know. And she and I both get notifications on our phone via text when anybody messages. Um, we also have, like, just some automated messages that just give you the general information
Yeah.
that you need. Um, so that's one great system. I also use Price Labs for pricing, so
Do you
that
like that?
it's hard to use, I will say.
Yeah.
And I like it now that I've spent more time getting to know it. I still feel like I could be doing more, and maybe I need to like meet with them and run through it again. But I don't have the capacity to do it manually
Right.
or to. So it is what it is. Yeah, like
Right.
it and from where we were, which is like a standard rate, to where we are now, I look and I see that, obviously holidays book higher, weekends are higher. And I'm thrilled. Like, if people, I want to keep it expectations manageable. So I don't want to have them paying way too much for our cabins, but I can set a range, and
Right.
I'm thrilled with how it's coming out in the end. So
Yeah. Okay.
mhm.
If you're dreaming about a cabin build, or are in the midst of a build, or you just bought a place and are getting ready to host for the very first time, regardless of where you are, sometimes you just need a little help along the way. Shared experiences from someone who's been there, advice from someone who's learned a lot of lessons the hard way. That's me. Or a cheerleader as you finish up. All of these reasons are exactly why I started offering cabin consultations to our Instagram followers and friends who could use some specific one-on-one help. I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise to be transparent about our build costs and process, our organization and project management systems, our favorite and least favorite tools for renting, how we market, and how we found ourselves with almost 80,000 Instagram followers and 100% occupancy in our first year of hosting at Cozy Rock. So if that sounds like it might help you, feel free to visit us at staycozycabin.com or on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and sign up for a time to chat there. I'm curious. I tried the sample of it once and I liked it, and it adjusted all my prices, so it's still using some of them. But
Mhm.
some of them felt really high, and I got nervous about, like,
Yeah,
I mean, this is great if that's what the market can sustain, but also, like, will I disappoint people? If you're paying
exactly.
$700 a night, like,
Yeah,
I don't know what your expectations are. We've had no issues so far, but that part makes me nervous of, like, I wanna make
yeah,
sure that we're not providing anything different than we were when I was charging $300 a night. So then how do
right.
you reconcile that? It
Yeah.
almost feels like a degree in psychology would be helpful to do this, because that's, like,
Totally.
what you're studying, right? Is, like,
How are
setting
people gonna
expectations.
feel, like,
How are they
about
gonna
the
feel?
price, and then
Mhm.
once they get there, does that match their expectations? Is
If
it
something goes wrong, how do you guess what that magic number is to make them feel
uh-huh.
better, to make them feel
Yep.
delighted, or to make them feel resentful? Like, we're
Yeah.
just all guessing. How do we figure that stuff out? Yeah.
I will say that I have listened to a lot of your podcasts, some other ones, and I, like, over refund. I know I'm going, like,
Yeah.
bonkers, and I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I over refund because if there's something that I'm truly like, "Oh gosh," or even if, like, the pontoon wouldn't start the other day, I'm just like, "We got it going." We sent our guy over. I was like, "You can have the whole 24 hours for free." And that's a lot of money, but,
Yeah.
it caused them frustration, and I'm just like, "I just want you to be happy, and I will over refund." I've had nobody ever ask for more. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Okay, so
So,
you're doing it right. This,
yeah,
though, I will say,
or too much.
or too much. Well, but is there such thing if everyone's delighted? I don't know. It
Yeah,
depends on what kind of
yeah.
business you're running.
Right.
But I do think that when I was running one cabin, I was way stingier about how
Mhm,
much we gave back. And once
mhm,
we started running Cozy Rock, which also profits a lot more, but also just having multiple income, it became easier. And we had saved up more over time, so we had more of a
mhm,
cushion. And suddenly it became much easier to do that. So I don't want
yeah,
to, like, if anyone is still struggling, I struggled with that a lot when I had one cabin, but now
yeah,
I'm much quicker. It's still, you're still guessing though. Is it like,
yeah,
the only real guarantee is to refund the whole stay, which you can't do. So you're
right,
still guessing what is the amount
yeah.
that will be unexpectedly nice for them.
And I
It's
think
hard.
maybe you said this, but if you can't give way more money, which is what I'm kind of doing, um, because I mean, who doesn't like getting a refund?
Right.
But if you can't do something like that, is there something really thoughtful you can do?
Yes. Yes.
I think that would be something that you've probably said is like, can I have my cleaner run over a gift card, even if it's like, $20 to the local grocer? Um, I know they'll love it and
Yeah.
it just feels really good. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And these days with something like Uber Eats, you can
mhm,
Uber Eats something to them. Like, literally just have, like, I don't know, a dessert sent over to them, or, if there's a lot of
yeah,
our folks are celebrating stuff, so you could have a
yeah,
birthday cake sent over. I mean, you're still guessing what kind of cake do you like? Do you eat cake? Like, all of that. But I would
yes.
venture to guess that even if it wasn't their favorite type of cake, they would
It
feel
still means a
touched.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's enough services now where you can do things like that.
I will
That
say not where we are.
Oh, that's so true. You're
Like,
right.
that's not out there, but a lot many, many places there are.
Okay, this
I
is a
should
really
double check. I guess I haven't tried in a couple years, but yeah. There's one pizza delivery to one of my cabins. You can't get anything
Yeah,
else to
okay.
the rest
Cozy
of
Rock
them.
is like this too. We don't have a
Yeah,
lot of Uber Eats. I'm thinking from my
yeah,
house in Durham, North Carolina, which we
absolutely.
do have
And
that, but our audience, we're all running cabins. That's such a good point.
well, I'm sure a lot of places it's accessible, but yeah,
Yeah.
they're a little behind the times up here. So
Yeah. But there are other ways. The whole point is it's really just the gesture. There are other ways you can stock up on
absolutely.
gift cards or bottles of wine
Yeah.
or whatever, matches your brand or your vibe, that just
Mhm,
something to show them that you are deeply impacted by that happening too, and you want to make it right.
mhm.
One of the things you said in your pre-interview that made me laugh out loud was cabins are expensive as hell to run, and people don't realize that a lot of time. Can you talk about that a little bit? Why is it such a surprise? They are. I agree with you. I laughed because I was like, yes, they are.
Um, I don't know why people who I mean, if you don't own property, I get it, I guess. I don't know if people think that like there isn't a mortgage. That's often a misconception.
Hmm.
Um, all but one of mine have mortgages, and that's not cheap,
Yep.
but that's not even the bulk of it.
Nope.
It's your mowing bill, your snow plowing bill,
Yep.
your electricity and your heat and stuff. The
Your
cleaning
bug guy.
costs, your bug guy, Chuck, our bug guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He's expensive. He's cheap enough because he lives right out there and he has low cost of living. But yeah, it's not cheap for him to have him go to 4 cabins and spray them, and it's his day, so we
Yeah.
have to pay him fairly. Um, we have hot tubs at all of them,
Yep.
so we've got a maintenance guy for those.
Yep.
Um, it takes him a long time. Sometimes he has to drain the thing, and he's there for
Yep.
several hours just to get the chemicals balanced.
Yep.
And so we're paying him for that time.
Everyone
We
wants the
have
hot tub. Nobody wants the hot tub bill.
nobody wants a hot tub bill, and nobody wants it to look green or have like a
Right.
couple rocks in the bottom.
Or
So we
have
got
it
to
be
keep them.
slightly not up to temp because it was just refilled and you're trying to keep it spotless, but it takes a
Yep.
bit to heat back
It
up.
takes a while to heat itself. Yeah, especially if it's like 30 degrees or
Mhm.
negative 30 even in Minnesota outside.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
of bills, and it adds up really quickly.
Yeah.
So,
And it's
yeah.
hard, right? Because it's like I don't I've seen people in an Airbnb group I was in, someone was like, I drafted this post to share on social media that or to put in our guest book or something that breaks down our costs to show them how much it costs to run so that they understand why the price is. And I just cringed and I was like, that's
Yeah.
not the answer, but I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah.
It's like you want people to understand
Right.
when they complain about the price or whatever. So I don't even know that there's a good answer to this because it's not
I don't
about
either.
educating people. I think
No, and
it's
I
just
don't I don't
yeah.
wanna guilt them or, like, make them obviously, we're running this, and it's still a good business for us. It's
Right.
just putting it in perspective of, like, "Yes, this is what you paid me to be here, and these if I could" yeah, subtract all the costs that are even just associated with your stay. It's not what it looks like, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So
Even with I'd be curious your thoughts on this because even when I was listing our first cabin, obviously a lot of folks in that area are looking for rentals. So they want to
mhm,
know your numbers. And so I was happy to share our gross revenue numbers. I did not want to share our P&L. And part
mhm.
of that was because I just think expenses are so not
Subjective.
personal, like, yeah, they're just what kind of cabin are you running?
Yeah,
Right? Are you providing $50 gifts for guests every time? Are
yeah,
you providing a bug man or are you just apologizing if there's spiders? Are you right? Like
totally.
what does your mortgage look like? Well, that's going to depend on when you bought, how much you put down, and that's going to
Yeah,
impact your profit and loss. What
yeah.
how much do you refund if something goes wrong? Like all of these are so
Yeah,
personal to your business model that I was like, I just don't know how much it would help someone.
yeah. I mean, you'd almost have to, like, give them I'm only saying this because my husband does finance, but, like, a spreadsheet for them to plug in their own stuff,
Right.
because otherwise it's just gonna be wildly off. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And I mean, that was me when I first bought that cabin. I remember running the numbers and being like, here's the mortgage. Oh, well, I can make that easily.
Mhm. That's what I thought too.
Oh, the mortgage. You mean 25% of your overall expenses? Good work,
Yeah,
Janice.
right, like, that's what it costs, and this is what I make.
Yeah.
Yay! I've succeeded.
Thankfully it did well. But looking
Right.
back at like how old was I then? 30-year-old Janice, I'm just like, oh, how little she knew.
Yeah, absolutely, but
Is
luckily for us, it worked out
You're
great,
right.
and
Well, and the takeaway that I would take from that, having read and, like, watched the heart that you put into it, is that so much of it is just about, like, if you love it, if it's a place you love
yeah,
and you love being, it's hard not to put that heart into it, and then it's like, okay, you can laugh at yourself, but it's still gonna do well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
We really weren't sure if it
Yeah,
would, so I
yeah.
guess other people love it too.
What would you say I guess I have I'm gonna pivot us in just a second, but
Yeah.
what would you say is the biggest reason for your success? If you were to pick one thing, and if you want to, you can pick one for your husband and you, but why you've been successful at this?
I mean, Yeah, we're very different. So I will say, I think we think outside of the box, both of us. Um, and I mean, I do think just having systems in place and having it run efficiently is huge. But I mean, I think we like to make them a little bit unique. Like I'm not going to say that they're like the unicorns, but these places are special. Each of them
Yeah.
is really special, and we only bought ones that were special.
Yeah.
Um, and we just had to have the feeling when we
Yeah.
got there, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's huge. I think we just try really hard to get people to see what we love. Like we leave out a s'mores kit because we love making s'mores, and it's amazing how happy that makes people. We're not
Yeah.
giving them $50 gifts, but getting them outside, trying to encourage people to do all the activities that we do. And then we just have people who fall in love with these places and want to come back every year. So
Yeah. Yeah. Repeat guests are the secret to
yeah,
success,
repeat
I
guests
think.
are the secret. That's probably true.
I know. I think
That's
they're
our thing.
I don't think enough people talk about that I think
Uh-uh.
that is like, if you can just
Yeah.
make your guests really happy and they keep coming back, that does
Yeah.
so much of the work for you.
It does. I don't
Yeah.
I see their names and I'm like, "I'm so happy you're back." And
Yeah.
then we also try to like, what can we what can we do or what could we add this year that really feels like it would be like we were missing or like, you know, when we have enough revenue to spend on the cabins again, we do. So like we know that a lot of people wanted to rent boats and it's really hard to do in our area, especially on
Mm.
our lakes. Um, so we started providing boat rental because we didn't
Whew,
want people to, I know that's a whole thing,
that
but
feels intimidating.
it's no joke. But we're getting there.
Yeah.
But we didn't want people to not come to us and be able to experience that boating life and
Yeah.
go somewhere else because they were telling us that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Ugh.
and we love boating. So it's so
Right.
true to us. That's what we do when we're there. And
Right.
then we're like not letting them use the pontoon. That didn't feel right to us,
Oh
I
my God,
guess.
that's so real. We just bought a boat for our
Yeah.
lake house, but we're all on the same page about like, but we're not letting
No,
guests use this.
I
It's
get it.
I mean, but I feel that's the thing I feel the most, which is
Yeah.
my love of this lake is about being on the water.
On the
And we
lake.
do provide
Yeah.
kayaks so you can
Yeah.
get out, but like
Yeah.
it is still different when you can go to the opposite end of the lake or the
Yeah.
perfect cove for fishing. Like
Yeah.
it's magical and you want them to experience that magic. So how do you make it easier for them? Luckily, our marina does offer boat rentals. If they
Okay. So
didn't,
you
this would
can,
be
yeah.
a much
We
harder
didn't have an
question.
option. So I was like, let's try
How long have you been
it.
doing it?
We did it most of last summer and all this summer, and knock on wood, it's actually
Okay.
going great.
Okay. And
So
guests are probably very happy.
they're thrilled. And they get there a lot of times and they haven't rented the boat, but they see it there and they're like, I want to do that.
And they'll pay
And
more. I would pay
well,
more
yeah,
in that
and
moment.
yeah, they pay for the pontoon separately, and we have separate
Yeah.
insurance and a separate LLC and all the fun things that go with that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how
Um,
you do it. The
but
liability is what makes
people
my sister nervous.
absolutely. So that's what we had to cover ourselves. We have very good insurance. We have everything strictly run as a separate business than the cabins.
Oh, the
Um,
boats are a separate business in the cabins.
yeah, which is
Oh,
fun when it comes to
interesting.
tax time and everything.
I bet.
Yeah,
But
but they
smart,
had to
but
be
very
because we don't
smart.
want to be commingling those.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. Okay, I'm gonna pivot a little bit because there was something
Okay.
else you said that I read in the pre-interview and loved. You said, "I spent too much of my life and time so far chasing success, and now I'm really leaning into what fills me up and how what I do with my day impacts how I show up in the rest of my life, especially with my kids."
Yeah.
And I think this will resonate with a lot of people because cabins become a way to do all the things we just talked about. But I think if you find success, it can become a way to reimagine what your life looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
rethink that corporate job, that whatever. How long did it take you to get to that tipping point where you're like, wait a minute, maybe this can look different?
Um, I mean, I think I've been on a journey to figure that out since I quit my corporate job.
When
Um,
was that in context to all of this?
like 2016. I haven't
Oh,
worked in
early.
that world for a long time. I did
Okay.
consulting, so just equally stressful, many things that
Yeah.
we're still very busy. Um, but when you have a little more flexibility, you're always trying to figure out the balance of things and what feels good. Um, but yeah, I think we have enough stability now and uh, financial stability, I guess,
Mhm.
that I have found, well, I don't even know that I will make less, to be totally honest. I
Yeah.
just found what I love doing, and people can tell that I love it and they want to hire me to do it. And what I do then with my day, it just changes the whole mood I'm in for
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. And so I want to say that part of it's very much like a privileged thing, and I get that. 100%. I don't want to be like, oh, just like quit your job and go do what you love, because that's not realistic. But I do think that like we have this voice in our head, many of us, that says like you have to do life a certain way, you have to do a job a certain way, you have to work for a company. And my husband and I have both found a lot of success, but also gratification in doing our own thing, completely different than
Yeah.
anyone would expect. Um, I think I put this in there, but I've been painting murals for people,
Yeah.
like in their bathrooms, in their kids' rooms, whatever. And I love it. Like, if I can just like scribble on your wall for the day and you're thrilled and I'm thrilled, like that is just like,
Mhm.
I mean, I never thought I could paint on someone's walls for a job.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
I had to go to college and become like a serious
Yeah.
person who does serious work. And now I'm
Yeah.
just realizing like there's just a lot of avenues.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to do life and to find a job that works for you. So,
I feel like we're entering this new era where their minds are getting blown a little bit by what you can do
yeah.
outside of that, but I feel like it's even when we grew up, it wasn't there. There was, like, entrepreneurs, there were, like, people who
Yeah.
started businesses, but that was, like, a thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like there's content creators. Oh, get good at
Yeah.
Instagram, and you can literally make enough money that that's what you're doing.
Yep.
There's creative businesses. Oh, you're great at
Mhm.
painting murals? Well, people right? It's like this,
Yep.
I don't even know the word for it, but it's like a different way of thinking about the economy. It almost feels like it's more what it used to be like in small towns where it
Yeah.
wasn't about money, it was about, like, "What am I good at? Well, I can offer this to the
Yeah.
town. Oh, what can you do? Okay, you can give me my bread, I'll fix your kids' shoes." Like,
Yep.
it's like a different version of that, but we've kind
Yep.
of I don't know, and so that I think almost makes it hard for people to even imagine what it could look like because there
Yeah.
aren't really the same rules anymore.
I think you're right. And
Yeah.
I mean, it does come with its downfalls of like owning your own business, things like that. There's a lot of logistics to that, and there's certainly
Mhm.
something to like clocking in and clocking out and being done. But yeah, there's just I think when you think outside the box, like there's so many more opportunities, and like you're saying, it's just like honing your craft or what you're good at or what you love, hopefully all in one, and you can
Yeah.
make a life of that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
some
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that easy, but
No,
it's
but I
an
mean
idea at least.
but you almost it needs to sound that easy, I think, for you to be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, wait, I don't need to overcomplicate this." It will be
No.
hard, but, like,
Yeah.
a real job
You'll
is
figure it
hard
out.
too. Yeah, it's
Yep.
just different kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you also said and I think about this a lot because I run a business full time, but it's a creative business, and you
Mhm.
said slowing things down also impacts my ability to really have concepts and ideas naturally flow out of me. And
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with this idea of, like, managing energy versus managing time. We've all
Mhm.
been taught growing up how to manage time, like, "Oh, you have to study for this test," or "You have to do that," right? Or, "Oh, you have
Yeah.
to get this done at work, here's how much time you have."
Yeah.
Versus, "Okay, but what if that yields 0 creativity and
Yeah.
nothing comes out of me?" And
Mhm.
so instead, it's like, "How am I feeling?" Like, really paying attention, "How am I feeling?" "Oh, not creative." "Okay, I'm gonna do non-creative things, or I'm just gonna go for a walk. Because what's the point of sitting here for 2 hours and banging my head against the wall?"
Mhm.
What led you to this realization when you're like, "Wait, slowing down is actually making me better at these things?"
I mean, I therapy.
Yeah, there you go.
Probably.
Good
Um,
plug. Everyone should go to therapy.
everyone should go to therapy. No,
Yes.
I mean, I didn't know, like, why, I'm forcing myself. I can force myself to do, like, the book work and all that, but, like,
Mhm.
forcing myself to get a creative product just doesn't work. I'm sure I can come up with something. I can pick out the bathroom faucets and whatever, and it'll be fine. Um, but yeah, if I'm in the right space, those ideas are almost effortless.
Mm,
and it feels fun and enjoyable to do, and the product is so much better.
mhm,
And just, like, paying attention to my nervous system, my therapist, she teaches
mhm.
me all these things, and knowing where I'm at, and then knowing what do I need in that space to get
Yeah,
to, and my equilibrium, my, like, ideal place is where the creativity does flow. So they
yeah,
go hand in hand, and now I know that, like, my well-being is just what I need to prioritize for so many reasons, but
yeah,
also for me to be good at my job.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, this almost makes me think, like, how impossible it is to kind of do that while hosting on Airbnb. And because what will happen is I'll get a message from a guest if something went wrong or God
yeah,
forbid, like a four-star review, and it just, like my nervous system, it
yeah,
completely right? I'm
yeah,
sure you know that
yeah, I've
feeling.
been there, yeah,
Yeah. But if you can remove all that messaging and you've hired someone to do it,
yeah,
that can free up a lot of your nervous system to focus on other things. I'm not telling everyone that,
yeah,
there are great
yeah.
parts about messaging with guests too, but I think about how
Yeah, I
much that
mean,
can.
I will also say that I found a way to let go of most of that. Like, I used
Mm,
to freak out at those messages, and, like, my whole night was I was just, like, panic mode, and, like, I don't know, I maybe it's just the time that we've done this for now. I just know, and the team that we have to, like, our cleaning crew, our maintenance guy is local. So I know it's not gonna be, like, me necessarily fixing anything
yeah,
physically. I just, like, know it's gonna be okay.
yeah,
And I've let go of the reins a little bit of, like, if we get a not perfect 5-star, I just I had to let it go. Like, this it was causing me too much stress to hold myself to that standard,
yeah,
and people are still really happy, and most of the time it's 5 stars, and if we get something else, even though I've really tried to make up for anything that's gone wrong, I don't know, it just is what it is.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
so people often ask about that, and I think this just reemphasizes what I believe about it's just time. It's just your
yeah,
like the number
yeah,
of
you get
examples
so
you
used to
have.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you only have one four-star review, sure, that is rattling.
it
But over
is.
time, I'm not saying you wanna get a whole bunch of them, but if you get
Yeah,
3 over time, you're like, "Oh, the first one didn't kill me. I'm still
yeah,
here, still making guests
mhm,
happy," you know?
mhm.
I'm gonna reply politely, and I'm gonna move on with my day.
Yeah, and with months and years of data that that's gonna happen periodically,
Yep,
and I just find myself being so much less impacted and less, like, defensive about it. I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I really wanna hear what you have to say and what you're
yeah,
feeling, and then learn from it," and I just don't I don't know. Again, maybe just therapy. I've just
yeah,
found a way to let some of that go. So,
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do just quick. We only have like 5 minutes left, but I'm gonna do
mhm,
quick hot topics. So just quick answers
okay.
to some of the hottest topics in the Airbnb world. I used to do this a lot and I haven't done it in a while. So, okay, short-term rental regulations. Where do you stand?
Ugh. Where do I stand? I
Yeah,
hate
what are your
them.
thoughts? You hate them. Do
I
you have?
understand
Yeah.
why they need to be present. I think, I could love them if we were in the right county, but personally, my
Uh,
county is a pain in the bum, so,
okay. And
yeah.
they are so different everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're needed, and our county's just silly with them, so, but
I think I know the answer to this one, but you might surprise me. Pet friendly?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. All floor.
I've
Even the
known
one with
dog
the white floor.
I love that. I've known dog owners and dog lovers who are not pet friendly, so I was like, "Maybe he'll surprise me."
I get it, but he
Okay,
had to be.
I know you use direct booking, but what's your
Mhm.
thoughts on direct booking? Are you, like, super gung ho, or are you like, "Ah, we do it?"
I am super pro now. I was
Okay.
like, on it, and the more we've used it, the more I feel I love having that assurance that, like, we are not relying on,
Yeah,
any specific platform.
yeah, and that even if it's only a couple, you have the option if Airbnb shuts down, you can still rent. You have a place for people to
Exactly,
go.
and we're at, like, 30% direct now, and I only expect that to go up as we get return bookings,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Labels in a short-term rental.
ugh, my husband would say yes, and I say no. I just unless I can find some that are beautiful, they just drive me nuts.
Thank
So,
you.
no.
I'm also team no labels, but Airbnb versus Vrbo. I always say VRBO versus Vrbo.
I say VRBO too.
Yeah. Because I think that's how they used to say it, and then they
Okay.
rebranded. So
Okay.
anyone who's been in the game long enough is like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what's this
That's all
Verbo?"
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, Airbnb. We just uh, Verbo hasn't been huge for us,
yeah,
so we do it, but
yeah, me neither. Influencers slash UGC creators, what have your experiences been like with them for marketing?
yeah, mostly awesome.
Yeah.
I We have a few local ones that are really great, and yeah, mostly awesome with a couple duds.
What would be your biggest tip for someone to have an awesome experience versus a bad experience?
Say that again?
What would be your biggest tip for someone to
Tip.
have an awesome
Okay.
experience versus bad? Because this is a hard one for a lot of folks to know when to do it, how to do it, how do I know that they're gonna be good?
For influencers.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like go to their page and does it feel true to you? Does it feel like your vibe? Like I I think it's like the energy of it, I guess, is the biggest thing. If it's going to be a fit with you, because for me, a lot of it is content. Yes, if they have a huge following, that's great. But if it's like hitting on like, what you're going for, that's my biggest thing.
yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
fit with you. It's going to fit with your audience that you want and you are trying to get. So
So just do a vibe check.
just a vibe check.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
No big
very
deal.
scientific.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Cameras on a property. Obviously not in a property, but cameras
Yeah.
on a property.
Yes, we have it because it's hugely useful for our cleaners. If someone leaves early on checkout or if someone hasn't left, they have access to our cameras. It's only facing the
Oh.
driveway. That's
Yeah,
the only way I would ever. But then we know what's up.
yeah.
We can also see if there's a bear right now that's like lingering at one of our cabins. So we get to do a
Be
bear check.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Cabin
yes, but
problems.
no privacy breaches. Like
Yeah.
we're just looking at your car.
Okay, what about the lake properties though? Because this is a fight between my sister and I, because for liability reasons, she feels very strongly we have an exterior camera facing the lake. I feel strongly that we don't because it feels like that's where people spend most of their time.
Oh, I see both sides of that, but I still think it would feel intrusive to me if I was
Right?
swimming there. That's your private time and that's
Right.
your experience. So if someone's watching that, that feels weird.
Yeah. I know, but it's tricky because with
But I get it.
lakefront, the liability issues is
Huge.
so scary, especially with that
Yeah.
lawsuit recently where 2 people who couldn't swim drowned at a lake house and they sued the Airbnb.
Okay.
I don't
I didn't know that.
well, I don't know
I'm
how
never
Steph
gonna read about it. No.
I don't know how the court case ended, so I don't
Yeah.
know that they won. I only saw it when they filed the lawsuit, so,
Got it. Okay.
but
Yeah, it's
that
serious for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and for someone with anxiety, it's like, "Oh boy,
Yep.
what do I do now?"
Yeah.
Steph, thank you so much for joining us. Tell people where they can find you. I will also be putting this in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Our little business is called northcountrycabinco.com. We have a great influencer who helps us on social media, North Country Cabin Co. Wisconsin Lake Rentals also pulls us up. Um, and
Oh, good work. You just Google Wisconsin lake rentals and
well,
there you are?
yeah, I don't know on my computer. I don't know how the algorithm works, but generally it's supposed to. Yeah.
Wisconsin lake rentals, I'm doing it. Man,
Oh
that's a
gosh.
hack. I mean, okay, well, Airbnb, yeah. Oh, okay, well, oh yeah, you're right there. Yeah. Well
Yeah.
done. Okay, that's a hack. That
I'm
definitely
like, oh
made
God, I don't know. I gotta
made
check now.
happen. No, you're on the
Yeah,
first
that's
page.
my
Just the
history of
ads
web
take up
design.
so much space at the beginning. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I'm gonna put all that in the show notes. Folks can find you there. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. And if you liked what you heard, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or share some of your favorite parts over on Apple Podcast. If you have feedback or suggestions for the future, you can also find me on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin. Looking forward to next week.